On November 19, 1863, an exhausted nation paused to listen to a speech so short that it lasted less than 2 minutes. And yet, those 272 words changed the course of American history. This is the story of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. How a brief speech at a battlefield cemetery helped redefine freedom, equality, and the very meaning of the United States. By 1863, the American Civil War had already consumed the nation for 2 brutal years. North against South, brother against brother, more than 600,000 soldiers would eventually die, a number greater than all other American wars combined until the 20th century. The war was no longer just about preserving the Union. It had become a struggle over the future of slavery and the very identity of the country. As the conflict raged, both sides desperately sought a decisive victory. In July 1863, the war reached a terrifying peak. At the small town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Union and Confederate forces clashed in one of the largest battles ever fought on American soil. For 3 days, cannon fire shook the hills. Smoke choked the fields, and over 50,000 men were killed or wounded. The Union Army emerged victorious, a turning point that would eventually lead to Northern victory. But the cost was unbearable. The fields of Gettysburg had become a graveyard. To honor the fallen, a ceremony was planned to dedicate a national military cemetery. The main speaker was not Abraham Lincoln, but a famous orator named Edward Everett, whose speech would last 2 hours. Lincoln was invited only to offer a few appropriate remarks. Even on the train to Gettysburg, he continued revising his words. On the afternoon of November 19th, the weather was cold and the crowd quiet. Everett finished his long speech. Then, Lincoln rose. Lincoln's speech began softly. 77 years ago. In just 272 words, he reframed the entire Civil War. He reminded the audience that the nation was founded on equality, that the soldiers had not died in vain, and that the war was a test of whether democracy could survive in a world filled with tyranny. Then came the words that would define generations. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. When he finished, there was no applause. Some say the crowd was stunned by its brevity. Others say they simply needed a moment to absorb his message. The Gettysburg Address did not win the war, but it did something arguably more important. It gave the war a purpose. Lincoln's words transformed the conflict from a regional rebellion into a universal struggle for human equality. Long after the cannons fell silent, those 272 words continued to resonate across the world. In civil rights movements, human rights declarations, and every society that dares to believe in democracy. Abraham Lincoln spoke for less than 2 minutes, yet his words have endured for more than a century and a half. On that cold November day, amid the graves of Gettysburg, a nation torn apart found its meaning again, and the promise Lincoln made, that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish, remains one of humanity's greatest hopes.